Welcome back to the Auburn Undercover YouTube channel. Here today, Christian Clemente, joined by Jason Caldwell. It's been a very busy Auburn basketball Friday. And before we get into that, guys, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed to the YouTube, definitely make sure to do that. It's free. It helps us out a lot. We're on the push for 7,000 subs. We've been climbing like crazy. We appreciate all of y'all, and we appreciate you guys watching. So let's get into it. Since the minute I woke up this morning and rolled over and checked my phone at around 7:30, there's been news flowing, and we're going to go chronologically, but from what most recently happened, which is some positive news, to the very first news, which was some negative news. It's been a very busy and eventful day. Jason, let's start with Chaney Johnson, the former UAH. Small forward, power forward, kind of can play the three, can be a stretch four, visits Auburn. He leaves his visit on Friday. You talked to him, and he left a commit and announced it a few hours later.
Spoke to him this morning, and he's a guy that committed, was firmly committed to Auburn before he left campus early on Friday morning. Waited to announce it until a little bit later, but just a really good addition when you look at a guy that is a veteran player that has grown and matured physically since he got to UAH. This is a versatile guy. When you think about a key for Auburn and for what Bruce Pearl and his staff want to do, it's having guys that are versatile enough to play up and down the court. They can play at half court. They can defend multiple positions and play multiple positions. And that's what Chaney Johnson does. I mean, he's 6'7", 208 at the moment. So probably a 3/4, but hey, he's the guy that said, look, I played the 2 in high school. I feel like I could help out there too. And so you get a guy that can do a lot of different things, was a Gulf South Conference player of the year last year, can help out rebounding, and look at him. He's a long guy. And so I think it gives you an extra dimension to what you want to do in terms of having that guy on your basketball team. So I think a really important pickup for Auburn and for them as they look to rebuild this roster.
Yeah, he fits in pretty well, replacing Yohan Traore. You theoretically project him behind Jalen Williams, who obviously entered the draft process on Thursday. Kind of an expectation there that he'll return. But you feel a little bit better about what Chaney Johnson can bring compared to what Yohan was able to bring. Just a more developed basketball player at this stage in his career. He's got more experience. He's obviously taken a jump up from Division II up to the SEC. So that's going to be an interesting how that works out. But he played against Auburn in the exhibition game last kind of fall before the season started. I think he had 14 points and maybe 5 rebounds, something like that. And Jason, you talked to him. Just kind of what was his message? What was he kind of saying after the visit?
Yeah, pretty interesting guy. And it's not the first time. It won't be the last. But this is a kid that grew up an Alabama fan. And he said, hey, have to get used to staying War Eagle. But he has a lot of family and a lot of Auburn family in Alexander City. So, I mean, you're talking about, 40 minutes up the road from Auburn is a family fan base. I think that was really important for him. I think that was important. And I think that the bond he built with this staff, with Bruce Pearl and Stephen Pearl especially, I think that was really big for him. So this is a guy that gets to come back to his home state and get ready to go. And I think that's important for him. So, I think that was a big part of it. And then, again, opportunity. I mean, he's going to have an opportunity. You look at this roster, and if you're a basketball player anywhere, you go, look, I can go there and have a chance to make an impact right away. And I think for him, because of the ability to play multiple spots, I think that was a big part of things for Chaney Johnson.
Yeah, so Auburn picks up its second portal edition. You already added Denver Jones on A-Day weekend, the former FIU guard, more of your shooting guard. He's going to be kind of your Zep Jasper replacement. You kind of have him and KD Johnson there at shooting guard. And now you have, theoretically, Jalen Williams, assuming he does decide to return, and Chaney Johnson there as the power forward. Next up in the middle of the day was Auburn's assistant coaching hire, which was pretty prevalent because of what happened in the morning that we'll get to in a little bit, relating to replacing Wes Flanagan. But Jason, Auburn gets its guy. And Corey Williams, the former Texas Tech assistant, took over as the interim coach at the end of this past season after the issue with Mark Adams popped up. This is a guy he's from Georgia. He's been around the area, played at Oklahoma State. He was a standout there. got a little bit of time in the NBA. He actually won an NBA title next to Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen there in 1993, which is pretty awesome. He was just a reserve on the team, but still get a ring out of that. You still get to show that to recruits if you want to. But got him, and he comes over from Texas Tech, was also at Arkansas right before Texas Tech, had a head coaching stint, I should say, at Stetson for 6 seasons before he got back into being an assistant coach. So Auburn gets Corey Williams, Jason, as its replacement for Wes Flanagan. Kind of what are your thoughts on what he can bring to the table?
Yeah, I think this is a huge addition when you look at his history, the head coaching experience, a guy that is obviously familiar with major college basketball, has had success in the Southeastern Conference at Arkansas, and so I think you start talking about what boxes does it check off, and I think it checks off every box. I think this is a guy that's a dynamite hire for Bruce Pearl, and to add to this staff, and you start looking at again what he's done. I think it speaks volumes to the kind of coach he is, that he's been in these opportunities. And I think if you're Bruce Pearl, it'd be hard to imagine finding a better fit for what you want to do to continue to add to Auburn basketball. So yeah, I think it's a major addition. Christian, you're right. You look at his resume, and man, it just jumps out to you, the things and the places he's done. But it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat an NBA championship ring. Yeah, Michael Jordan. Yeah, hey, Michael, get on the talk about this. And I don't know what that would mean to most guys. I got to guess it'd be pretty darn big for somebody to have somebody connected to Michael Jordan coaching.
Yes, exactly. You talk about recruiting. There's no sugarcoating it in terms of Wes Flanagan leaving. He was a very, very solid recruiter for Auburn. And it seems like Auburn is. We'll talk about Labaron Philon here in a second. Auburn's felt the repercussions a little bit of him leaving, but now you get a guy that you feel pretty confident can recruit at a high level, and especially in this area, some of his biggest wins. I should have mentioned he was an assistant at Florida State for a long time as well. A lot of his biggest wins have come from the state of Georgia. That's obviously where Auburn has kind of made its money over the past couple of years. Jabari Smith, Sharif Cooper, Isaac Okoro, JT Thor, the list goes on. Walker Kessler coming over as a transfer originally from the Georgia area. So you have to feel pretty good that you get a guy tapped into the Georgia area, can kind of take over for where Wes Flanagan was recruiting there. And then the last bit of news, this is what happened kind of first thing this morning before 8 a.m. In-state 2024 combo guard Labaron Philon backed off his commitment. He had been committed since, I want to say February, somewhere in there. When did we go down to see him? I think it was February.
Yeah, it was probably January, February, sometime around in there. Maybe a little bit later.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And he's the number one player in the state of Alabama, just won Alabama's Mr. Basketball. He had won plenty of other awards as well, averaging over 30 points a game. Really talented player. And now Auburn's 2024 class, which had 3 commitments, and Fahad Pettiford, Peyton Marshall, and Labaron Philon, is down to 1 in just Pettiford. Now we think Peyton Marshall was a little bit more mutual in terms of Auburn looking another direction there. I don't think that was the case with Labaron Philon. I also don't think Auburn is done recruiting Labaron Philon. And that's not to say he'll end up back in Auburn's class again necessarily, but I don't think Bruce Pearl is just going to let this guy walk away. Another team is going to have to go out and win. They're going to have to go out and get Labaron Philon, because Auburn's not going to let this one totally slip away. But obviously, Jason, you wish he never backed off his commitment to begin with if you're Auburn.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not the most positive news. It's not necessarily, again, it doesn't shut the door, it doesn't close the door on Labaron Philon, but it does. Now you have to go back and work and do all those things over again. It's about showing him why he chose Auburn in the first place. Obviously, now you have a new assistant coach, a guy that played guard, a guy that done those things, to now sell him his vision on what he thinks he can do with him as a developer and doing those things with him at the position. So that'll be important. and for Auburn, you're right. This is a continue to fight the battle one. I mean, you just have to keep going. There was and will be lots of attention and lots of recruiting pressure on Labaron Philon now. But this is a kid that we've seen at games. He came up on his own for a couple of games after he committed. Wore his Auburn shirt, warm ups in a playoff game a couple of times. I mean, there's a connection to Auburn and a love to Auburn. And so, will that be strong enough to get him back in the fold? So I have to wait and see. But I think the next 6 months are going to be really important. Can you get him back on campus this summer? Can you get him, even for a camp or a team camp or something, just kind of make sure that vibe is still there. I think that's going to be really big for Auburn's chances.
Yeah, and look, Wes Flanagan was his primary recruiter, kind of that first contact at Auburn, and the guy that he kept up with the most. But when we talked to Labaron leading up to his commitment, the first thing he said about Auburn was, look, me and Bruce Pearl, our relationship, his exact quote was, it's out of this world. And so Bruce is absolutely going to be involved here. He's going to try and get Labaron back in the class. Only time will tell. We'll have to wait and see. Ole Miss was in the picture before Wes Flanagan went there. Obviously, they're probably going to be pretty heavily in the picture now. Alabama was involved previously. So was Arkansas, so was Kansas, so was Houston. So you're fighting some top dogs here, but Auburn's just not going to let this one totally slip away. So we figured we'd just hop on, do a quick little recap video of what was a very eventful Friday. And the Friday is not over yet, but for Auburn basketball, ideally it's over because that was a lot of Auburn basketball news in a lot of different directions. But
yeah, you're right. And I think now you look at it, I don't know that we'd expect any more positive news today. I think there's an expectation that we'll hear something from Alan Flanagan soon, that he'll probably, my guess is going to be test the waters of professional basketball. I think that's what you'd expect. I think we're probably both in agreement that we feel like Janai Broome and Jalen Williams will both wind up back at Auburn. And then, now you start thinking about potential for portal. Matthew Cleveland, when can you get him on campus to visit? Devin Cambridge is supposed to be in, I think, early next week to take a visit. Former Auburn player that was at Arizona State last year. So there's still some pieces left to fill from the portal as you move forward. But yeah, pretty busy day for Auburn hoops for sure.
Yeah. So we figured we'd just hop on and recap. Guys, like I said, if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube, definitely do that. It's free. It helps us out a lot. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it. If you're just watching on YouTube and you haven't checked us out at all on the website, definitely do that, because we've had stories on these guys. We've had VIP intel on the message board for subscribers. All of that is over at auburnundercover.com. So definitely make sure to check us out there. And we'll be back again probably early next week with a podcast of some sort. And we'll talk about it then.